All right, so we're all parents. Yikes. You've made it this far. If you're on the line, that means you made it through the teenage years, right? You made it through the toddler years. So this actually, you can do this, okay? It's not as complicated as you think. But I want you to know, as a parent myself, who went through this a few times already, and Mirza Shem, a few more coming up, it is probably the most emotional, maybe fear-laden time for parents, okay? Because the stakes are high. You know, when I give my parenting classes for young parents, I always say, teach them now, give them independence, allow them to make their own choices when the stakes are low, so that by the time the stakes are high, right, they'll be really good at this. But if any of you saw the kichels this past week in Mishpacha, okay, I think that was timed exactly for this class, okay? Because this is, I could have written that. I mean, it was great. How ironic, right? When we try to make all of the decisions, control our children, don't give them independence, totally enable them, and then throw them into the maze of shidduchim. Okay? How ironic is that? And the funniest things are funny because they contain truth in them. So I think we all have to take a lesson from this week's kichels, and let's really pay attention carefully to how to help our child and how to navigate that fine line between being there as a parent, and they do need us, and we need to be involved, and yet giving them enough space to be independent and make their own choices. Okay. So let's begin. First of all, it is so important for parents and children to be in a similar chapter in the book. Maybe you're not going to be on the same page because you're different people, but I want you to be at least understanding what is the process that they're going through, what is it like, what is their experience. So as a dating mentor, for me, this is an amazing group because I always want to tell the parents things. So now they're letting me do this, okay? I have so much to share with you that would help your daughters and sons. And here we go. So before we actually get into the meat and specifically address the parents, I want to give you the overall dating pattern, the foundations of good dating. What is your child about to do? And if your child has not started yet, definitely important to sit down and have a conversation with your child, male or female, makes no difference. Why do you want to get married? What is marriage? Like, really go back to the foundations, because if you don't know why you're doing something, it's very hard to do it. And how many people I have in my marriage classes, and I say, why did you get married, right? Why marriage according to Judaism? And they just look at me with these blank faces. They have no idea. And certainly if they don't know before, then after they got married, they really don't know why they got married. Okay, well, that's going to be very hard to do something if you don't know why you're doing it. So the first thing we want to go to is, what is the purpose of marriage? Sit down with your child, really have a heart-to-heart talk about what does this mean, right? Everything in life is kind of a mixture of costs and benefits. This is not la la land. We're not getting married as a solution. You know, when my college comes to me as a college teacher, I say there are two types of people who get married: those who look at marriage as a solution, and those who look to get married as an opportunity. I hope you're in the second category, because marriage is not a solution. And how many people say, oh, my kid is having problems, let's marry them off? Yikes. Okay, marriage is a magnifying glass. It is going to magnify whatever you bring into it. So is that good or bad? It depends on the single. Okay, it depends what you're bringing in. So if you're bringing in insecurities and image and perfectionism and all of these fears and notions and expectations, then yeah, that's not going to be too pretty. But if you're bringing in, right, the correct, if you're bringing in good midos, if you're bringing in understanding, if you're bringing in wanting to give to another, well, then it's going to be fabulous. So really, really important just to understand this idea that marriage is a magnifying glass. What we're doing and the overall goal, I don't have so much time right tonight to go into this. I'm assuming that you'll know these answers, but the goal of marriage in a nutshell, on one foot, is unity, oneness, and completion of self. And what I think is important to know is that every relationship has a main goal. And that main goal is to become the best version of myself. I want to be the best version of myself in this relationship. And every one of you listening on the line, you know that, think about the different relationships in your life. Different relationships bring out different sides to you, right? Think about a few of your relationships for a moment. Some of them, you really like yourself when you're in that relationship. Other people, there's something about that dynamic doesn't bring out the part in you that you're very proud of, okay? So we want to be with someone that brings out the best in ourselves. That's something that's very, very important. Okay, so the overall goal of dating is we're building a relationship with this unknown person. So I like to give the mashal of a staircase. Those of you who've heard me speak before, dating is like a staircase. And just like every single one of you have a different number of stairs in your homes, if I asked you to type in the chat now how many stairs you would have in your homes, you would probably write anywhere between 6 and 16, right? Or maybe even 20. But somewhere between 6 and 20 you have going from your first floor to your second floor. So it's different for everyone, and yet there's a minimum and there's a maximum. And that is very true of dating also. I'm not into numbers. Everybody has a different amount of steps in their home, and everyone is going to take a different amount of time to develop a relationship, to come forward, to show themselves, to let the other person into their lives, right? And you all know your children a little bit better than I do. And so you know that, and you'll have different children, right? I have a few daughters who are married, and it's so interesting to see, you know, one of them was like on the second date, she's like deep into it, you know, she's marrying this guy. And, you know, the other one took them, they were like so slow. I was like, ah, okay, but that's their personality. So that's going to come out in the relationship, and that's okay. So we're looking for a healthy dynamic. We're looking for a progression. It's a staircase. And as long as it's moving upward, I always say I look for direction, not perfection. I'm looking to move one step upward at a time. Every date should do its work. So what are we doing? We're moving from stranger to acquaintance, to friend, to good friend, to close friend, to part of my inner circle. And eventually, for some people after marriage, to best friend. Okay, that is the goal of the dating staircase. So keep your eye on the overall goal. Be on the same wavelength with your child, so you both understand that is the goal of dating. It's not to catch the guy doing something wrong. It's not to find red flags. It's to see, can a relationship develop here, and to show up as an authentic, real person. Because I like to spell relationship, R-E-A-L, real relationship. Sorry to the English teachers that are on the line, okay? But that is how the relationship has to be. We cannot be in a relationship with someone who's not showing up with their full self. So it needs to be authentic and it needs to be real. And relationships take time. There are no shortcuts when it comes to relationships. So that's why we need to kind of sometimes ground our single in where they are. So if they come home to you on the first date and they say, well, I don't know if I could wake up to him every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday for the rest of my life. You're like, Shani, honey, you know the guy for 2 hours. It's okay. All you need to know is, right, and my program kind of goes in steps. So I'll give you an example. All we need to know after the first date, if he was a guest at your Shabbos table, would you invite him again? That's it. Okay. And each one of the steps, there's different criteria, because as the relationship grows, the rules of the relationship become, they grow. There are more rules to the relationship the closer you are to that person, right? So if I'm sitting next to a random stranger on the bus, the rules to our relationship are pretty minor. Don't touch me, I don't touch you, don't touch my stuff, I won't touch your stuff. End of story, right? But as our relationship gets more intense, if you're my friend, if you're my sister, if you're my spouse, the rules grow exponentially greater and greater. And so I have a system, I created this directed dating approach, and I trained many, many mentors across the country and countries at this point that will help the single go through this process carefully and smartly and productively. So that's kind of my passion in life, is that your kids should date productively. They should date well. Everybody who they go out with should make sense. It should be a possibility. It should be a viable option. There should be a very, very good chance that this relationship can move all the way up the staircase, and that they should take it slow and steady and progress one step at a time. In fact, I get very nervous if someone went out on one date and they're like, oh, he's everything I ever wanted. That scares me, okay? Because then she's probably falling into the two kind of stoppers and the things that are very dangerous, which we're going to talk about in a minute. So that's the overall pattern of dating. And the other pattern that you need to know about is the way that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created a person, where first comes his head, his brain, and then comes our heart, and then comes kind of like our instinctual body parts, right? The stomach, the other organs, right? That kind of are attracted to pleasures in this world. We are created like that. And this is how a Jew, this is how a frum person should date. And when we have our Torah glasses on, we should be dating first with our head, then with our heart, then, right after a ksuva and a ring, we bring in the body component. And none of these steps can be skipped. Now, what I see as a dating mentor, if I had to tell you, I'm going to tell you the single biggest problem of today, and then the two things that stop almost every good shidduch from going through, okay? Because if we don't know what we're up against, how are we going to start solving problems? So the biggest, I guess, set of breaks, I would say, that I see today, are the biggest cause of problems in dating and later on in marriage and engagement, is that the heart stage was skipped in the dating process, is that they went from head to ksuva. And it actually, I don't want to go into it because I like to be positive, but I'll just tell you, I get a lot of the aftermath of that. Okay? Because the heart needs to be engaged in the whole process. When I have the head on straight, intellectually, this makes sense. Our values and goals match, right? We see eye to eye on a lot of things. We respect one another. We want to take this journey together. And we feel a closeness, a connection, a chemistry of the soul. Great. Then that's like a present, and the body, the physical, will be like a ribbon, and we'll wrap it up together and make it beautiful. But we need to have those two components. So what do? First, the head, and we make sure after the first cluster of dates, 1, 2, 3, 4, something like that, 3, 4, 5. It's different for every couple. But once that first cluster of dates is over, I, as a dating mentor, make sure that all of the intellectual check boxes are checked off. They make sense. This is a viable shidduch. He or she has the potential to be a good, healthy spouse. And then I'm able to move to the heart. I'm able to kind of shut off the head for the time being. And don't worry, I keep my role as their head, but I can't be on the date. I can't be their heart. I had one girl who said, Rochel, how much can I pay you to be on the date for me? Okay. So I wish I could do that for her, but I'm not able to do that. But at the very least, right, what I can do is I could be the brain, but then after the fourth date, she should go into it with her heart, which means they need to start building the emotional connection, the friendship. They need to share things that their better friends know about themselves. They need to talk in a way that they talk to their good friends, and so on and so on and so on. And it builds. And that's where we kind of have the building, share something vulnerable, compliment in a deep way, right? Work directly with each other to plan the dates eventually, right? Like there's a whole system of how we start slowly increasing the relationship, date 5, 6, 7. So this is the single biggest culprit in like kind of just dating, just stopping and plateauing. And it's no longer a staircase. It's like they've hit a landing and they're like, and then they start going down because, a relationship either progresses or regresses. It doesn't actually stay the same. So if it stays flat, so if your daughter or your son or someone has a lot of this, like they date like 6, 7 times, then they're not bringing it to heart. Okay, that's their issue. So what I do a little bit, just to give you an idea, is I'm a little bit of a diagnostician. So when your daughters or your sons are calling me or my dating mentors, they're kind of saying, Mrs. Goldbaum, I don't know why I'm stuck. This is the story. I just dated the guy 6 times. And I right away, I'm able to see, okay, here's where it's stuck. Let's unclog this. Let's go into the next date and put in our heart. And then it's able to fly. And it's really just incredible. I love what I do. Okay, the second thing you need to know, because you can help with this. The 2 biggest enemies of our girls or our boys getting married, more for girls than for boys, okay, is image and fear. I call this the if factor, okay? If only these 2 things didn't exist, I'm telling you, everybody would be married, okay? Image and fear. Now in our society today, image is a bigger issue than ever before, and fear is tremendous. How many of you, just by a raise of hands, do your daughters or your sons know who were married less than a year and divorced? I see some hands going up, yeah? Okay, our singles know tons of their friends now, okay? And this is creating a tremendous amount of fear. That's one kind of fear. There's fear of commitment. How many of you have children who you could see having a difficult time making a big decision or even a small decision, right? How many of you, right? I mean, I get this all the time, okay? So those of you who are raising your hand, just the ones who are being honest. So I appreciate that, okay? Image and fear, this is big. How many people am I seeing nowadays that are afraid? Your children are afraid of emotional intimacy. They're afraid of being vulnerable. They're afraid of liking someone. Okay, these are the things that I'm dealing with. I want you to know what I'm dealing with so you can help me out here. And look at your children. Not all of you will have this, but some of you will. You know who you are, and I'm just letting you know you are not alone. I would say 70% of girls that I'm dealing with today, and these are the regular typical girls from all over, are dealing with tremendous amount of difficulty becoming real in the relationship because of messages that were given to them that they have to, seem as if everything is just perfect. Okay, that's the message, unfortunately, from our society or some of our school systems. So really important to be aware of these issues. Okay, every single girl or boy will journey through image and fear at some point during their shidduch process. And it's gonna be either a bump or it's gonna be a mountain, but it's gonna be something that they need to get through. Okay. So what is our role and how can we help and how can we not harm? Okay, and that's really what I want to talk to you about today. Some common mistakes that I've seen parents make. Number one, the importance of setting healthy boundaries. Now, boundaries is a word that's overused nowadays and maybe misunderstood. So let's clarify. Boundaries simply means I understand where I end and where my child begins. Now, who thinks that's simple? Okay, come on, a good Jewish mama, right? We are like so enmeshed with our children that and it's beautiful on one hand, and it could be stifling and not healthy for our children on the other hand, right? So one of the lines I like to say is my child's choices, moods, and behaviors does not determine my worth. Neither does my spouse's, by the way. My spouse's behaviors, moods, choices do not determine my worth. So that's a really solid confidence and understanding what I'm responsible for and what I am no longer responsible for. So there's a difference between helping, guiding, right, supporting, and owning. Okay, it's like the difference between giving joy and making someone happy. We can never make someone happy, but we can try to give joy. So we cannot control our children. I think you know that by now, right? When I give my parenting classes, I start off, I say, I have great news for you. I have some great news and I have some bad news. The great news first. The great news is, right, that Hashem gave us an amazing gift. It's called bechira, free will. We get to make our own choices. The bad news, he gave it to our kids. Okay, so this is something we need to be aware of, like it or not. I'm sure you know this by now. Okay, you are not responsible for your child's choices, moods, or behaviors. Okay, what determines your worth is your own choices, moods, and behaviors. So it's super challenging, I know, when it comes to our children, and we are so emotionally involved. We are so emotionally engaged in this. And that's why it's not possible to be an objective listener. It's really not possible to give your child objective direction. If you think you're able to, then I'm concerned about your parent-child relationship. So I would want you, the first thing you can do, I would beseech you all, the best thing you can do for your child is make sure that they have an objective person in their lives, like a dating mentor, a Rebbe, a Mora, someone who is experienced in dating, who can give them objective direction, they could bounce off their feelings off of, where they could process the dates. That does not mean they don't share with you and they don't talk to you. They absolutely should and will, Amir Tasha. But it means that your role becomes a lot simpler and a lot easier because they have someone else that can do the objective direction, and you can do your job as being there as a quiet support. So we're going to talk about that in a minute. Before we are able to have healthy boundaries, we need to understand one thing. You already chose your spouse. And that choice was yours, Baruch Hashem, and I'm sure you made a great choice. Do not live through your children. A lot of parents project what would bother them, what they want, or what they wanted for themselves maybe and never got, and they want their children to have it, but that is not necessarily what your child wants. So make sure you really know what your child wants, not what you would like to have or what looks good for your family. That's image, right? And we have to be careful of our own image and fear during this process. So this is your child's process and your child's decision. And if you don't think your child is up to the task, well, then I question why you're sending them out on a date, okay? Because if they're ready to get married, then they should be ready to make their own choices, okay? So again, it doesn't mean that they don't have a guide. They should have a dating mentor, absolutely. And I want you to be there and watch and notice because you're a lot smarter. and wiser, and you know your child better than anyone in the world. At the same time, recognize that they are going to think about what they want in life. And what I found very helpful, because you'd be surprised, and I myself had this with one of my children, so I'm coming clearer, I'm with you on this, is that sometimes we're describing our child to a shadchan, or we're telling somebody, our friend, what our child's looking for. And I had this with someone, a mother called me, she told me all about her daughter and what her daughter's looking for. And then I read I was inspired by 10K. I'm not a shopman. I said, you know what? I'll read this girl a shidduch. I know some boys. So I read a shidduch to this girl. And she said to me, well, I'm not looking for someone who's learning. Well, that's not what the mother told me, right? So I was like so confused by this whole thing. And I suggested that they have a conversation. And I actually did this one time with my daughter. I sent my daughter to a mentor who was excellent at this. And he kind of worked with both of us and just gave like a pre-shidduch class to us. And he went through what is she looking for? What did I think that she would benefit from? And then we kind of made sure that we were on a similar wavelength. So we were giving the same message to shadchanim or to people that we knew. So what I simplified this, and I think it's a great exercise to do with your child. Have your son or your daughter write down 4 traits or important things, priorities, that they feel very important for them to have in a marriage relationship. Okay? 4 things that are kind of their non-negotiable things that they feel are really important in a marriage. It could be that the person is other focused and kind. It could be that the person is machshiv Torah and Torah is the center of his life, okay? Giving you examples, but these would be, this is not, he wears checked shirt.
You write down 4 things, your child writes down 4 things that are really important, and then meet and take those lists and see where they, how they compare to one another, like kind of like playing Boggle, right? See what you both have and see what you have that was different. And then take those 2 lists, talk about it, make sure that you could combine and you're both good with it. And now you have your joint list. And it could have 6 things on it in the end, and that's okay. And that way you have a nice kind of introductory conversation with each other, and you're on a much better ground now to then go out, and you're both giving the same messages to people who know boys. Okay, so that's number 1, an idea that I have. Okay, next thing, don't do anything that would increase image or fear. Now, what is the number 1 thing that parents do all the time that actually they're trying to help, but it actually increases the problems, increases the image, and increases the fear? That is asking questions, okay? So I'm going to tell you something that is probably the hardest thing I'm going to tell you tonight, but I'm going to ask you to trust me on this, okay? I'm going to ask you as a spouse, I'm going to ask you as a spouse to try it out because it's also a great piece of marriage advice, okay? Cut the questions. And if any of you have heard my speeches on marriage, you know what I'm talking about. Cut the questions. So many times, and by the way, this is one of my biggest pieces of advice for dating. When couples go out on dates, it's not a job interview. It's not an interrogation. It's a relationship. And questions are usually not that great for relationships. Okay, questions definitely have purpose, but not usually, they're not usually great relationship builders. They're actually sometimes used as substitutes for communicating something that is best communicated in another way. So I'll give you examples, okay? When parents sometimes say, well, they're asking their children, okay? They're saying, so, like, what was he wearing, or what was he doing, or did he bring you a drink, or did he do this, did he do that? So now she starts thinking about these things that didn't bother her before, and now all of a sudden right? She is starting to think about these things. So, you just like opened up a Pandora's box that didn't need to be opened. Now you're questioning her. She's questioning him. It's not helpful. Instead, if we're quiet, I'd love to hear about the date and just allow your child to talk about what they want to talk about, to highlight what was important to them on the date, right? You're going to have a much better conversation. You're actually going to hear a lot more information from them. It's going to be, and your child, especially, by the way, those of you who have sons, okay? How many of you who have sons come home, how was the date? And they go, good. And then they go to their room, okay? So you notice you asked a question, right? But the more you're quiet and you don't interrogate them and you cut the questions, the more your kids will actually have a space to share and to go where they want to go. All right. So many times when we ask our own spouse questions, did you call your mother? Why did you park there? Or what's going on with this one? How are you? It's just pushing them into corners that they don't want to be pushed into. But if we allow space, hey, it's so nice to see you, which is a statement instead of a question, right? Then the person can now come forward and share what they want to share. Or if we want to give information, right, we could say, your mother called, or I tried to reach you. Not, why didn't you answer your phone, right? So it's a really great skill. Now, what happens, what I've seen, is that when parents ask a lot of questions, so they also create image issues, or they exaggerate the image issues. So for example, are you proud to be seen with him? Is a classic question that parents ask. It's actually a very damaging question. Okay, this is not why we get married, to show someone off. We're not marrying someone for arm candy. Okay, the real question that a dating mentor, not you, should be asking is, or you could say, I hope you like yourself when you're with him, right? So the question that I'm asking my clients, which is not an image question, right, is how do you like yourself when you're with him? Because what I want to see is, right, what does this relationship bring out in her? And that's a much deeper, healthier question than, are you proud to show him off to your cousins, right? Or how does he compare to Shlomi, your brother-in-law? And I literally have parents who say, so is he like Shlomi or Maishi? Is she like Hani or Suri? I mean, no, don't do that, because we really want to move her away or him away from comparisons and images. And this increases images and comparisons. So again, cut those questions. Instead, make statements. I'd love to hear what you learned about him. Period. End. Okay, that would be great. I'm here. Love to hear about your date. I know it's so hard, but you're going to get big schar for this. Okay, be quiet. Give your child space. Asking a ton of questions. What did he wear? What did he say? What did he do? Where did you go? If your child is ready to date, give them more credit. Okay, they're old enough to be discerning. They're old enough to share what they'd like to share. It is so hard for a parent. I'm with you. And yet, right, we grow through our children. I call my parenting class raising ourselves through our children. We're not raising our kids. We're raising ourselves through our kids. So this is another way to grow up, right, and really become the best version of yourself. What is the parent's role with an adult child in general? I like to say, right, we move in parenting. You've heard this idea from director to supervisor to consultant. When our children is over 18, when our child is over 18, we become the consultant. Consultants do not talk and they do not advise unless they are asked for advice. So my best advice to parents is be a wall. A wall, W-A-L-L. What does a wall do? Well, a wall listens really well. A wall is supportive. It's consistent. It's stable. It feels secure, right? It's always there for me. Okay, that's how parents of adult children are best behaved, like a wall. And I literally visualize myself as that wall. And that way, wolves don't lean in, wolves don't ask a ton of questions, wolves don't give a ton of advice. And wolves definitely don't judge, and they don't go hysterical, right? And they don't, get everybody in the house anxious. So I think that's a good visual that you might want to have in your mind. If you are concerned about something, your child comes home and she starts sharing information, and there's something in there that concerns you. I strongly advise you not to share that right away with your daughter or your son. Wait a little bit, okay? And then think where best to put this information. Maybe I should call the shadchan. Maybe I should call the dating mentor. Maybe I should do a little bit more reference checking, okay? But think of maybe I should talk to a friend who's been through this and ask them, whether or not this should be an issue. But talk to someone, work it through first with someone. And then if you do share, if you're advised to share, tone it down gently, right? Say, I'd like some clarity on this issue, or I noticed X and I'm wondering why, right? Meaning the letters, right? I noticed A and I'm wondering B. Don't diagnose, don't invoke fear. Give it time to, to kind of naturally see and clear this information a little bit more, get more knowledge, right? Gather more information before you get exercise jumping to conclusions, okay? So again, know our role as helper, as consultant, and allow our child to drive the process. What else? Notice. Since the dating mentor or the shadchan does not see your child when they walk through the door, and very likely you are the one that is seeing their face when they first walk through the door, or noticing that your child is changing. They used to be a really calm, relaxed, happy person, and now they seem very unlike themselves. They seem very anxious, or the opposite. They were blow up for, and now they're like singing. Okay, so notice. Does your child seem happier, or does she seem more stressed out, more anxious, or less anxious? Okay, and there's a difference between nervous excitement and between stress and anxiety. Okay, so notice, and don't necessarily talk about it, but notice it. And then think about it again. Where am I going to bring this information? To my daughter, to my dating mentor, to her dating mentor? Who am I going to bring this to? If you do bring it to your child, just again, start out not hysterical, but you seem a little more anxious lately. Period. End. And then be there to listen to what your child has to say. It's a really effective communication tool in general for your child. Okay, when meeting, some parents like to meet the person that they're dating, whether when it's serious or before it gets serious. In general, it's best to only give positive feedback, especially if your child is positive. Again, if you're concerned about something, bring it first to somebody else before you bring it to your child, because it could bring negative feelings unnecessarily to the relationship. I once dealt years ago with a mother who the son had been dating a very, very long time. He was an older single in his 30s. And finally, he found a girl who he really, really liked. And everything was going so well, and they were about to get engaged. And he brings her to his mother. And do you know what she tells him? She says, I'm really concerned that she was wearing black because she's trying to hide her weight problem. Could you imagine? Like, this is nothing to do with, this is not going to hurt there. He's attracted to her. He's good with her. Why did she need to bring that up? That was not unsafe or dangerous. And by the way, in the end, he broke it off. Okay. And I think this was a big part of it. So if you see something Normally we say, if you see something, say something. If you see something, hold off on saying something to your child and say something first to somebody who could give you a little more perspective on the matter. And then you'll figure out how to bring that to your child. Okay. Now, where can we be very, very active in our role of, as parents? Right? How can we help our child? So the place where you come in the most handy is checking out references, is before your child goes out on the date, before they even get onto that staircase. Here's where we really need the parents. And a lot of people nowadays are poo-pooing reference checking, and they're saying, oh, come on, just go for coffee. Don't get me started on that one. All right. I would like to say, absolutely, you must check out this potential person, okay, this potential partner. I mean, really, would you send your daughter into a car with some random guy, right? Without for hours, he's going to take her away for hours on end without checking him out very well first. So absolutely, we want to do reference checking. So we want to have a minimum of 4 references. Okay, this is kind of my rule, minimum of 4 references. 2 is not enough. You want to speak to 4 people because, again, we want to look for a pattern. And what I'm looking for is not perfection. In fact, if I hear perfection, I'm concerned because nobody's perfect. So I want to hear about a real person. But what I would like to hear is consistency of information. I would like the information to be thorough and consistent, clear and consistent, I should say. So I want to speak to a minimum of 4 people, and I want it to be clear and consistent information. It's great if you can find someone who knows you and who knows the other side and who likes you better. Okay, that is the best person to call for a reference. And you want to call the people on the resume or on the profile, but you also want to call people that are not on the profile. So do both. Okay. The main things to be aware of, I find, when you are checking out information is don't lead the witness. Okay. You want the truth, not what you want to hear. Okay. So we want to get to the truth. Also, we want to ask less, believe it or not, and listen more. You're going to get more information if you're quieter and you do more listening and more invitations as opposed to questions. Okay. Also, don't make any on the spot judgments. Be open to learning about the person. And once you've spoken to a number of people and you have a good sense of the person, then you can sit back and actually take a deep breath and trust your gut on this. Okay. You don't have to have an excuse. Just trust your gut. If you're not feeling good about this, there's something that's niggling at you. It's okay. You can say no. All right. If it feels good, it sounds good. Trust that gut within you. Okay. Listen to yourself. If you're not sure, get more clarity. Ask a couple of more references and get a little more clarity on what you're unsure about. Okay. So a great way to start these conversations is, hi, it's Rochel Goldbaum, and I'm calling about my cats. And then be quiet. Okay. And listen, what is the person starting to say, right? Where do they go with it? What are the first things that they talk about or they say about him? If they don't know how to start, you can say, I'd love to hear something that, the first thing that comes to your mind when you think about Moshe, right? So to think about what stands out, right? What makes him unique, like even one word, right? And then again, listen. I'd love to hear about, and then throw out a topic. I'd love to hear about his, what he's doing these days. Or I'd love to hear about her plans for the future. And then just kind of leave. I'd love to hear about the family. Notice that's not a question. Okay. And then just, it opens up a very wide space for the person to kind of go wherever the person wants to go. And not that you're leading them exactly what you want to hear. Generally, when people are shidduch references, everybody wants the shidduch to go through, so they want to tell you what you want to hear. So don't give that away so much. Okay. What else? Might want to check out their social life. It's, if they have friends, that's a key thing to know about them, because this is a friendship. So you really want to know how they are in relationships. We want to look for stability especially in a boy's life. No one's going to be everything, but those are the things that I feel are particularly important. I know for my own son, when I asked for my own daughter, my first son-in-law, when I asked Shmuel Kamenetsky, what are the most important things to look for in a boy? He said, a Baal Achrayus and a Baal Simcha. Responsibility and positivity. So these are things, if you think about it, are so crucial in a marriage, especially for the man, and Baruch Hashem, my 3 sons-in-law, each one is more different than the next, but they all have this in common. They're all Baalei Achrayus and Baalei Simcha. Okay. What else are we? Some of you may be concerned about the home. Is there shalom bayis in the home? We want to kind of explore the person's level of emotional intelligence and emotional health. Okay. So on the flyer, it said how to find red flags. So I would like to just say something that might shock you. We don't look for red flags. And, when a dater says to me, so what should I look for, Mrs. Goldbaum? What red flag should I look for? Now, imagine for a moment that you and I were going out for lunch and we wanted to increase our relationship. I know you a little bit. I'd like to get to know you more. So I invite you out for lunch, Leah, and we go out for lunch. And I'm looking for red flags, right? Because I want to make sure I'm only friends with a healthy person. So I'm looking at what you say, what you order, right? What we talk about, how many times you get up. Are you going to want to go out for lunch with me ever again? No. Okay, we can either judge someone or love someone, but we can't do both at the same time. So if we're creating a relationship, judgment cannot be there. That's why the ahavta l'reacha kamocha does not go with, right, like judging your neighbor unfavorably. Okay, we have to be judging favorably if we're going to be able to love someone. So we have to drop the judgment. So what does that mean then? We can't go in looking for a red flag. The definition of a red flag is something that hits us, is something that we can't help not notice, okay? So they will hit you, I guarantee you, okay? That those red flags will hit you, okay? As soon as you need them, you will find them. But what's the one key that you have to do is you have to trust your gut. You have to trust your intuition. Listen to that inner voice. Something, okay? Listen to it, take it seriously. I remember with my daughter, one of my daughters, the first boy she ever went out with, we did a lot of checking and we couldn't put our finger on it, but something was niggling at us. And finally my husband said, I'm not sure about his social intelligence. Okay, he might be a little socially off. And sure enough, she went out with him on one date and she was crying. She said, Ma, never make me go out with him again. He was so socially off, Okay, so we felt it, right? And we probably should have trusted that a little bit more and, have gone further to determine whether or not he was socially with it or not. Okay, so again, trust yourself. Hesitation in people's voices, lots of defense or excuses, overly defending the person is usually cover up for something going on. So you could definitely, that would hit you. Again, if you hear something concerning, don't jump to conclusions. Knowledge is power. Gather the knowledge that you need to make a proper decision. Always get more information. You cannot make a decision without knowledge. And then take that knowledge, like let's say he has, I don't know, it comes up, he has an illness or a genetic condition or some emotional thing in his family or something like that. So then get the information, first gather the information, and then take that information to either a Rav or a dating mentor or a professional of some sort, someone who is outside of the situation, who's not emotionally involved, and talk it through whether or not you should nix the shidduch or not. Okay, I want you to ask yourself this question. If something bothers you and you're not sure, ask yourself this question. How will this affect his or her ability to be a good spouse? Okay, and that's how you'll know whether or not you're being affected by your own image issues, or your own fears of what people will say, or you're really out for the best interests of your child. So ask this question to yourself if you hear something that you're not sure about. How will this affect his ability or her ability to be a good spouse? And if it's something that would indeed affect your child, this person's ability to be a good spouse to your child, then goodbye. I understand. Okay. All right. Last little point before we start to wrap up, and then I want to address questions. When a shidduch ends, right? A lot of times we talk about moving shidduchim forward, but the reality is that we suggest shidduchim, and people go out, and most shidduchim, if you look at 10K's numbers, right? It shows the reality. Most shidduchim do end, okay, and they don't end in marriage. So that's a reality. Rejection is a reality. Ending of the relationship is a reality. So, what is your role as a parent when a shidduch ends? So the first thing is you need to know is that you could be a huge support. Your role is crucial. Your child might be really down. They might be upset. They might feel really hurt. It's a loss of hopes and dreams. They might have been excited. Either way, it doesn't feel good to be rejected, even if they weren't excited about it. Doesn't feel good. Okay. So one of the lines that is very deep and meaningful, it's not just a line, it's a real idea. And I share it with every one of my clients, is rejection
You're frozen. Oh.
Well, she's probably going to say it's Hashem's protection.
That was a tease right at the beginning of the line, too.
I think it's something about redirection.
Direction is Hashem's protection.
Is this better? Am I frozen now? Okay. Wow, you guys are amazing. Okay. All right. So let's keep going before I lose it again. This, honestly, I kid you not, I don't think this has ever happened to me in any Zoom that I do. I do about 3 or 4 a week. Okay. So rejection. Do you hear? I don't know where I lost you, but okay. So I see Suzanne on the line. So you're going to be my person that I'm going to go by your feedback. Okay. All right. So rejection equals redirection. So I can look at it as a rejection, or I could look at it as Hashem redirecting me to something better, right? Like when HaKadosh Baruch Hu said to Moshe Rabbeinu, right? Ravlach, okay? No, you can't go to Eretz Yisrael, but I want you to know that I have something more in store for you, okay? So yes, this is rejection. You feel that right now in this small way, but there's something better waiting. This is good. There's something better for you, okay? Rejection equals redirection. I always tell my clients, at the end of the day, all I want in a shidduch is clarity. That's what we daven for. When you're davening Shemona Esrei and your child is going out, have extra kavana, right? That's all we want, is we want clarity. So here's your clarity. If he said no, right? Or if she said no, you couldn't get clearer than that. Like, you did your best, you put out your effort, your ishtadlus, and that's your clarity. Thank you, Hashem. Like literally, that is my attitude. And as a parent, this is crucial. And then if it's a girl, send your daughter to some nice self-care service or take her out to eat or whatever. If it's your son, I don't know, buy him a tub of ice cream, take a walk with him, send him on a hike. Okay. Do something nice and special for your children. Okay. Make sure also, you can say to your child, here's a question that is helpful. What did you learn through this experience? Let them know that you're proud of them. Let them know that they're more equipped for the future. There's no such thing as a wasted date or a wasted encounter if you learn something from it and take it into your future. I always say, turn those tears into tools. Okay? Take the tears, turn them into tools for the future. Next, buy the shadchan a gift or a gift card, even though the shidduch didn't go through. Dafka, because the shidduch didn't go through, she gets no sipuk, no reward. What's her reward? Okay, so let her know that was so nice of her or him to think of your daughter, to think of your son. So send them a gift when it doesn't work out, okay? That is something that I know. I just got in the mail a beautiful platter from Onut, from one of my girls, who we just ended a shidduch. And she said, Mrs. Goldbaum, people wish you mazel tov when the shidduch goes through. But really, they should wish you mazel tov when the shidduch ends. So, because that's really, you're lucky. You got your clarity. And thank you for helping me through this mazel tov. And literally, she sent me a gift platter. It was beautiful. So I think that that's something that we should all be aware of. And, definitely send a beautiful card and a gift. Next, as was mentioned in the introduction, if it was a quality boy or a quality girl and it wasn't for your child, think of them for somebody else who might it be a good fit for. Maybe his hashkafas were a little too right-wing for your child, but maybe it's very good for so-and-so. And I've actually made a couple of shidduchim like that. So a lot of people have, and I know that my daughter and son-in-law, my newlyweds, just made a shidduch, and it was a girl who he had gone out with, and it was one of my daughter's friends. And so, they sit every Thursday night and they have shidduch night after supper, and they talk and they compare, because who knows the singles but the newlyweds, right? They're the best people. So anyways, a very, very beautiful thing. Okay. And really, I guess the last thing that I want to address here, and then I want to open it up to questions, is something big that I feel very strongly about. So I'm going to take a deep breath. No good decisions get made under pressure or from fear. I want you to think about yourself for a moment, and I want you to imagine you're making a very big decision, like purchasing a house or taking a job or moving to a new city, okay? Or making a medical decision, should you have the surgery or not. How helpful would it be to you if somebody is sitting over you, pressuring you, and threatening you? How would you feel? Do you think you're going to make a good decision like that? Do you think good decisions get made from fear? I don't, okay? And I want you as parents to help me be my advocates here, please. There's a lot of pressure that our singles are under, a lot, and a lot of fear, and a lot of fear factor hanging over them. Do you know how few boys there are? Do you know how hard it is to get a yes? You can't just nix this shit up. That's not how we make decisions, okay? And we need to empower like ourselves and remember it's okay. Like, this is our child. I'm allowed to make a choice. My child is allowed to make a choice. And I really just would love us to take the reins back of our own lives, and our child to take the reins back of their lives, and really not be bullied into doing things that go against our core values, that go against my gut feelings, my intuition. I know this won't be helpful to me, for example, to be pressured into this. I have so many kalas that I have to coach and counsel because they were pushed into getting engaged 3 dates too early or 2 dates too early. And I want you to know that the slower you go, the faster you finish. Meaning, okay, that sometimes a little patience makes a calmer, happier kala. And it is so worth it. Yes, it is worth it for the chassan to have a calmer, happier kala. Relationships take time. Let them do the work now, and it will be so much smoother sailing during engagement and marriage, I guarantee you. So that's kind of my kala teacher hat, a little bit of my dating mentor hat, but I really think parents should know that. So please don't be pressured by society, by the calendar, or by the shadchan. It's okay. It's good to do the right thing. Take it calmer. It's better for the couple. You can use the line, right? I would love to have a few more dates to feel a higher level of comfort. I would love a few more dates to get to know each other a little bit better. Okay, so you're very specific about what you want. You're not taking forever. Just would like a few more dates. And I think that's important to see, can the other side respect the preferences and the desires, right, of this girl or this boy? So that's something that I feel really, really important to give to you as parents and to let you know that. All right, I just want to end with a chizuk for all of us, which helps us get rid of the fear and pressure. Remember, the ha'ikar lo lefached klal. I want you to know that fear is not a Jewish concept. And don't tell me yira, because the word yira is not the word pachad, okay? The word yira is from the root resh aleph hey, which means awareness. When you're aware of the awesomeness and the all-powerful HaKadosh Baruch Hu, pachad does not exist. Who makes shidduchim? Hashem, okay? Not anybody else. Yes, you can have an awesome shaliach or shlucha, but Hashem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, makes shidduchim. And do you not think that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, who made Niagara Falls and the Rocky Mountains, so beautiful, so magnificent, created the entire world and everything in it, cannot find one appropriate person for your child? He can and he will. All you need is one. So don't get sucked into the crisis and don't get sucked into, well, you know, this is what's happening and these are the statistics. We're Jewish. We don't fall under Teva. We don't have statistics. We don't make sense. Okay? We're Jewish. We don't make sense. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the only person, Ein Od Milvado. And when you put your trust in Hashem, you're going to see it coming from another direction. So I give you all a bracha, especially those of you who had the bravery to put your videos on. Double bracha for you, that you should see clarity and you help your child be able to be that balance between giving them their space and yet being a support, a wall, a really good person in their life and help turn on the lights for them so they make great positive decisions. Thank you so much. And I do want to address